Young Sheldon is full of hilarious family moments. From Sheldon taking apart the family refrigerator and owing George $200 to Mima getting bailed out of jail by her own son-in-law, I'll be going over every funny family moment in Young Sheldon, starting with one of the best. The entire show runs on one joke that somehow never stops being funny. You take a 9-year-old genius with zero social awareness, drop him into a house full of normal Texans, and just watch what happens. And the thing is, Sheldon's brain doesn't just cause problems at school or with his classmates. It causes problems in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the family budget. Basically anywhere a normal kid would just exist without incident, Sheldon turns into a full-blown household emergency. It starts early. In season 1, Sheldon chokes on a breakfast sausage and just decides he's done with solid food. For weeks, the entire Cooper household has to adjust to a kid who will only consume liquids because a sausage scared him.
No, I'm afraid I'll choke again.
Oh, honey, that's not gonna happen. Go ahead, eat your dinner.
That same season, he asked his parents for a computer, and the request alone is enough to spark a genuine fight between Mary and George about their finances. This isn't a rich family. George is a high school football coach with 3 kids on a single income, and their youngest son keeps needing equipment that costs more than their grocery budget. There's also the time Sheldon uses statistics to help the football team, and suddenly his science accidentally invades George's football world, which is the one corner of life where George is supposed to be the expert. Even when Sheldon is trying to help, he manages to make everyone around him uncomfortable. And then there's flu season, where Sheldon's germophobia turns the Cooper home into something that looks like a hazmat quarantine zone. All of this is just season 1, but season 2 is where Sheldon's household disruption really levels up. He takes apart the family refrigerator to fix a high-pitched buzz that only he can hear.
$200?
It'll be okay. We'll find the money.
The old fridge in the garage.
I kind of donated that fridge to the church.
George has to pay $200 to get it repaired. And Sheldon, instead of apologizing, decides to earn the money back by starting a paper delivery route, which he immediately outsources to Billy Sparks because the actual physical labor part of the job was beneath him. And later, in season 4, he gets into a car accident with Mima and just refuses to ride in any car at all. The whole family has to figure out how to transport a kid who will not get into a vehicle. Mima ends up riding the church shuttle bus. Missy uses the accident trauma to milk sympathy at school. Everyone is affected. And maybe the funniest version of this is in season 1, when Sheldon decides he's old enough to live as an adult. He demands full independence from Mary. And then he completely fails at every single aspect of adult life. And a tornado warning is what finally sends him running back to his family. The kid who thought he was smarter than everyone in the house couldn't make it 24 hours on his own. Every single one of these moments works because of the same tension. Sheldon's logic is almost always technically correct. He's right that the refrigerator was making a noise. He's right that a computer would help his education. He's right that cars can be dangerous. But the gap between being logically correct and being a normal person to live with is enormous. And that gap is where all the comedy lives. The family can never really argue with his reasoning. They can only survive the consequences. But Sheldon wasn't just tormenting the adults. His siblings had it even worse. And honestly, some of the funniest moments in the entire show happen when you lock all 3 Cooper kids in the same room and just let them go at each other. The dynamic between Sheldon, Georgie, and Missy is built on the fact that these 3 people could not be more different if they tried. Sheldon is a certified genius who thinks emotions are a design flaw. Georgie is a regular teenager who just wants to play football and chase girls and not think about physics ever. And Missy is the sarcastic twin who sees through everyone's nonsense, including Sheldon's, and isn't afraid to say it to his face or punch him. She does that too. The very first sibling comedy engine the show sets up is Georgie's embarrassment. He's almost 5 years older than Sheldon, but because Sheldon skipped ahead, they end up in the same grade. So in season 1, when Georgie's grades start slipping and his football eligibility is at risk, guess who has to tutor him? His 9-year-old little brother, sitting across from him at the kitchen table, correcting his homework.
Maybe for you. I don't get it.
Try this, close your eyes.
The humiliation is baked into every frame, and the show keeps finding new ways to make Georgie's life harder. In season 2, he joins Bible study just to get closer to a girl named Veronica, and when he finally kisses her, she punches him. A couple episodes later, he's still trying to impress her and gets humiliated again. and Mima ends up having to break up a shoving match in the middle of the chaos. He tries buying his way out of chores in season 3, and George is furious. Even his nicknames are brutal. Missy calls him Assface, and both Mima and Missy have called him Mr. Soggy Pants. This kid cannot catch a break. Missy's comedy comes from a different place. In season 2, the twins participate in a research study, and the results basically confirm what the audience already knew. Sheldon is analytically brilliant. Missy is emotionally perceptive, and the study also reveals something Mary didn't want to hear. Missy feels neglected. She's been living in Sheldon's shadow for years, and nobody noticed.
I think when you're on your own a lot, you get good at saying that kind of stuff. And my mom and Mima spent all their time fussing over Sheldon. Nope, it's just me.
Because they were all too busy managing Sheldon, that neglect becomes a running thread across the whole series. By season 6, Missy is feeling so forgotten in the middle of baby drama and Sheldon's college life that she steals George's truck and runs away with Paige. And in season 3, she pushes to try out for the baseball team and has to stand up to boys on the roster who don't think she belongs, which is funny and fierce at the same time. But the sibling moments that hit the hardest are the ones where they're actually trying to get along, and it still goes sideways. Sheldon tries to teach Missy math using conditioning techniques, and she punches him in the face. In season 3, they invent a super game together, which sounds wholesome until you remember that any game designed by both Sheldon Cooper and Missy Cooper is going to end in either an argument or property damage. And then there's Sheldon and Georgie's attempt to mine roadside gravel for platinum in season 3, which is exactly as ridiculous as it sounds, and exactly the kind of thing two brothers with completely opposite skill sets would convince each other to try. What's interesting is how the sibling dynamic quietly changes over the course of the show. Early on, these three are genuinely annoyed by each other. Georgie is embarrassed. Missy is resentful. Sheldon doesn't understand why either of them is upset because he doesn't understand emotions as a concept. But by the later seasons, something shifts. When church gossip starts targeting Georgie over his pregnancy situation in season 5, it's Missy who stands up and defends him. When Sheldon and Missy find out about the pregnancy, the family swears everyone to secrecy. And then every single one of them immediately tells someone. Sheldon tells Dr. Linkletter. Missy tells her friend. Mary tells the pastor. George tells Wayne. The Coopers physically cannot keep a secret, and watching them all fail at it at the same time is one of the funniest payoffs in the whole show. The comedy never disappears, but it starts sitting on top of something that feels like real loyalty. The kids were funny on their own, but a huge chunk of their best moments only happened because Mary and George could never agree on how to raise them. And those parenting arguments created some of the most underrated comedy in the whole show.
No secret, I just told you.
Where you hiding it? Oh, okay. My money's our money, but your money's your money.
That's right.
Mary Cooper and George Cooper are not bad parents, but they are operating from completely different playbooks. Mary is a devout Baptist who wants to protect Sheldon from a world that she genuinely believes will hurt him. George is a football coach who thinks the best thing you can do for a kid is toughen him up and let him figure things out. And those two philosophies crash into each other over and over again across 7 seasons. It shows up in season 1 when Sheldon gets bullied by Bobby Sparks, and Mary wants to handle it one way, while George wants to handle it another way, and neither approach works. It shows up again when Mary becomes Pastor Jeff's marriage counselor.
Hoping that you could help us plan the wedding. Oh my gosh! I did it again. I'm sorry. I would be honored.
And is so busy with church responsibilities that Sheldon and Missy end up spending their first afternoon home alone, which goes about as well as you'd expect. Then in season 4, Sheldon is learning to ride a bike without training wheels, and the whole thing turns into a full-blown argument about parenting styles. Mary thinks George is pushing him too hard. George thinks Mary is coddling him. Sheldon just wants to not fall. But the parenting comedy isn't limited to Sheldon. Some of the best Mary and George moments involve the other kids entirely. There's the season 1 episode where George takes the boys on a road trip to watch a space shuttle launch, while Mary, Missy, and Mima have a girls' weekend at the salon.
Seriously, I'm melting. This really works.
Your hair will look just as pretty tomorrow.
The whole family splits into gendered halves, and both sides have completely different adventures, and neither group can believe what the other group got up to. In season 4, George bonds with Missy during what the show delicately refers to as her new stage of womanhood, and that whole plotline works because George is completely out of his depth but trying his hardest. Later, in season 5, George starts giving Missy dating advice, which is both sweet and a little terrifying depending on how much you trust George's judgment. And on the Mary side, there's the Thanksgiving episode in season 2 where Sheldon literally studies his family's dynamics, like a science project, while George and Mary argue about whether George should take a job offer in Tulsa. Then there's the one that a lot of fans consider one of the funniest George moments in the whole series. In season 7, George secretly gets a vasectomy because he's convinced Mary wants another baby, and he absolutely does not.
I hear about a vasectomy.
Actually, our earliest appointment is in 3 weeks.
How long, huh?
He doesn't tell her, he just goes and does it. The fact that George Cooper's solution to a communication problem with his wife is secret surgery tells you everything you need to know about how that marriage works. And here's the thing that makes every George scene land a little differently than it would otherwise. If you watched The Big Bang Theory, you already know how George's story ends. Adult Sheldon described his dad as an almost redneck Homer Simpson type. But young Sheldon spent 7 seasons showing a guy who teaches Missy baseball, fights with Mary because he cares about the outcome, holds the household together when nobody else can, and quietly carries the weight of a family that doesn't always appreciate him. That gap between how adult Sheldon remembers his father and who his father actually was is one of the smartest things the show ever did. It means every funny George moment carries this invisible weight.
You were just trying to help, and then I yelled at you, and then you had a heart attack.
That had nothing to do with you.
We don't know that.
That makes it land harder than a sitcom moment should. Mary and George created chaos by disagreeing with each other, but there's one family member who created chaos entirely on her own, and she might honestly be the funniest character in the entire series. Everybody talks about Sheldon being the source of Cooper family disruption, but if you actually track who caused the most emergencies, the most arguments, the most legal trouble, and the most long-term financial damage, it's Mima. And it's not even close. It starts small. In season 1, the whole family is torn apart because Mima refuses to give George her brisket recipe. The kids literally sit around brainstorming ways to end the feud. That same season, Sheldon invites Mima's new boyfriend, John Sturgis, to dinner without telling anyone, then monitors the date through binoculars from across the yard. By the end of season 1, Sheldon has gotten so involved in Mima's love life that he draws up a formal relationship agreement between her, John, and her other suitor, Ira. And the narrator mentions that Sheldon eventually makes contracts for his own children, which means we're watching the origin story of one of adult Sheldon's most famous personality traits, and it started because his grandmother was dating 2 men at once. But the early seasons are nothing compared to where Mima ends up. In season 2, she and Sheldon get addicted to a video game, and she pulls him out of school so they can keep playing. She literally enables truancy because she can't stop gaming.
Come on, 5 more minutes?
No. Now say goodnight to your grandson. You'll play with him again tomorrow.
Then in season 4, she and Dale play Dungeons and Dragons with Sheldon and Missy, which is one of those family scenes where you have 4 completely different personalities trying to cooperate inside a fantasy game, and every single one of them is playing it wrong for different reasons. In season 3, when Dale fires Georgie, Mima is so furious that she breaks up with Dale and then helps Georgie egg Dale's store. By season 5, she's opened an illegal gambling room in the back of her laundromat. By season 6, George is bailing her and Georgie out of jail after they get caught with 400 cartons of undeclared cigarettes. And by season 7, Georgie and Mandy get married. And in the same episode, Mima's gambling room gets raided. She's put on house arrest with an ankle monitor.
How's that feel?
Unnecessary.
You ran from the police. You're flight risk.
And Sheldon starts studying law so he can represent her. Think about the trajectory for a second. In season 1, Mima's biggest crime was hiding a brisket recipe. By season 5, she's running a full illegal gambling operation. By season 7, she's wearing an ankle monitor while her teenage grandson plays lawyer and a tough probation officer is breathing down her neck. That escalation is absurd, but the show earns every step because the family keeps enabling her. George bails her out, Georgie goes into business with her. Sheldon tries to defend her in court. The Coopers don't have one troublemaker. They have a whole household of people who keep making each other's bad decisions worse. And Mima's gambling room didn't just create legal problems. It fed into something that drove a lot of the show's funniest and most stressful family moments, because the Coopers were always one bad month away from being completely broke. A lot of people don't talk about this enough, but money is one of the biggest comedy engines in young Sheldon. The Coopers are not wealthy. George coaches high school football. Mary's church work doesn't exactly pay Wall Street salaries. and they have 3 kids with very different and very expensive needs. It starts with Sheldon's computer request in season 1.
We really need to get one of these.
What on earth do we need a computer for?
Yeah, I could use a spreadsheet program to keep track of your expenses.
Blowing up the family budget, and it never really stops. The refrigerator bill in season 2 costs George $200 he doesn't have. There's also the episode where Sheldon finds a $300 discrepancy in the family finances and has to keep George's secret, which leads to him discovering one of Mima's finds, which leads to Mima retaliating by telling everyone that George has been urinating in the church vegetable garden. One financial secret turns into a chain reaction of family exposure, and by the end, nobody's hands are clean. And then there's the cable fight, which might be one of the single funniest father-son moments in the entire show. In season 2, Georgie pays to get cable installed in the house.
You got cable. I'm not paying for that.
I paid for it.
But then refuses to let George watch it because Georgie paid for it. So George retaliates by billing Georgie for every household service he uses: rent, food, electricity, water. It's a full economic war between a grown man and his teenage son. And it is exactly as petty and hilarious as it sounds. The money comedy also sets up something bigger. In season 3, a university tries to recruit Sheldon, and George suddenly realizes that his son's brain has actual financial value. In season 5, there's an episode where Mima's gambling room is finally turning a profit. Sheldon decides to try the stock market, and Missy starts her own little business. Every single Cooper is hustling at the same time, and Georgie's money arc quietly foreshadows his entire adult life. He shows talent for tire repair in season 2, discovers he's a natural salesman in season 3, and spends the rest of the series grinding through jobs and side hustles. He eventually founds the Dr. Tire chain, so every time young Sheldon plays Georgie's business instincts for comedy, it's accidentally showing you the origin of a future empire. But money wasn't the only thing that rewired the Cooper family dynamic. Starting in season 5, one event completely changed how family comedy worked on the show, and it had nothing to do with Sheldon. For the first 4.5 seasons, young Sheldon's family comedy followed one reliable formula. Sheldon does something weird, the family reacts, and the audience laughs at the collision between genius and normalcy. But once Georgie got Mandy pregnant,
We talk.
We better.
What's going on?
I'm pregnant.
the show discovered a completely different engine. Suddenly, the funniest family moments weren't about a gifted kid in East Texas. They were about a teenage father who lied about his age to an older woman, a set of in-laws who could barely be in the same room, and a baby that absolutely nobody was prepared for. The pregnancy reveal in season 5 is already comedy gold because Sheldon and Missy find out, and the whole family has to promise secrecy, which for the Coopers is like asking water not to be wet. But things really escalate once the Mallisters enter the picture. In season 6, Georgie and Mandy have their first sit-down dinner with Mandy's parents Jim and Audrey, and it is deeply, painfully uncomfortable. Audrey is domineering and Catholic. Mary is protective and Baptist. Those two women were destined to clash from the moment they shook hands. And then there's the labor episode. Mandy goes into labor in season 6.
Oh! Sorry I'm late.
We're completely late, but I'm really glad you're here.
Do you want all these people around?
No!
All right, everybody out.
And the entire Cooper family is completely unreachable. Every single one of them is off doing their own thing while this woman is trying to have a baby. It's the kind of moment that perfectly captures how chaotic this family is, because even on the most important night of Georgie's life, the Coopers still can't get it together. The baby shower episode is where the Mary and Audrey rivalry goes full contact. They butt heads over everything. And later, when Georgie and Mandy start planning the wedding in season 7, the religious differences explode. Mary wants a Baptist ceremony. Audrey wants Catholic. CC is caught in the middle. Jim, Mandy's dad, is just a good-natured guy trapped between his wife and his daughter, trying to keep the peace while everyone around him makes that impossible. And in the middle of all of this, Georgie is quietly trying to become a better person. In season 7, there's a moment where he starts trying to speak more properly in front of his daughter because he doesn't want Cece picking up bad grammar.
Has not been easy, but I'm going to keep working on it for you.
He takes marriage advice from Jim. He shows up at the wedding, and the wedding itself is this perfect young Sheldon moment because the same episode that gives us Georgie and Mandy finally getting married also gives us Mima's gambling room being raided by police. Joy and disaster sitting right next to each other. That's the Cooper family in a nutshell. What the McAllister edition really gave young Sheldon was consequences. Early family comedy is low stakes and lovable. Brisket feuds, comic book confiscation, video game addiction, training wheels arguments. But by the final seasons, the comedy comes from pregnancy secrecy, church gossip and judgment, in-law religious warfare, and a young couple trying to figure out parenthood while both of their families are actively making it harder. The show never stopped being funny. It just started being funny about things that actually matter. And when the finale rolls around and Jim Parsons and Mayim Bialik reprise adult Sheldon and Amy, you realize that every single family comedy moment across 7 seasons was building toward this. The brisket fights, the cable wars, the ankle monitors, the pregnancy secrets, all of it was the story of how Sheldon Cooper became the man who would eventually tell his friends, "In my way, I love you all." And that's what made the Cooper family feel less like sitcom characters and more like a family you'd actually recognize. If you like this video, you'll love this one right here.